Hi, this is the Black Bear Prepper, and today we're going to be talking about cope, challenge course, whatever you'd like to call it, basically ropes course and how to set them up. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to tie into a tree because we want to be able to be backed up. I'm a big fan of suspenders and a belt. What I mean by that is I want the primary and the secondary to cover the system. So we don't want just having one thing. We don't want just the person hooked to the system. We want it the person and a tree. Now in this particular situation, we want the tree as the primary, and we're going to talk about that in a second, and the person is the secondary. Okay? So what we want to start with is, in years past, we've had a problem with having to constantly readjust the tree tension to put the belay device in the right angle. We're going to talk about that in a second. So here's how we've done it. I'm going to have you come down here. This is what we call a 3-wrap pull 2. So that means it's gone around the tree twice, as low as we can get it. Unfortunately, we've got a big root coming off this other side, but we'd even like it a little lower if possible, especially for some of the shorter people in our group. Now, so we wrap 3 times. We tie a nice water knot with at least a fist length. I like to see a good 10-12 inches. Then we pull 2. So we leave the knot, so there's no, see almost no tension on the knot, so it doesn't have to worry about untying the knot. In this system, the tension on the tree leaves no tension on the knot. So the weakest point of this whole system is this guy right here. Now from here, years past, what we've done is we've actually left the loop long up to this point here. Now there's a couple little problems with that. The physics will tell me that when the rope is pulled, that the pivot point is at the center of the tree, so the person gets pulled back into the tree. With the new system we're using a Sterling daisy chain. Now there's a couple different types of daisy chains on the market. This is what we call a multi-link daisy chain, which basically means each individual link is rated for a full fall, versus a standard daisy chain, which is sewn every few inches and can actually rip out in a true fall. Is that still doable? Yes. I'm a big fan of these. They cost about 26 bucks on eBay, the Sterling brand. So just look up Sterling daisy chain. They're both on eBay and on Amazon. So something to think about. These guys right here, about $26 to $30, mattering what it is. The 40-inch ones work really good. They also make a longer one. I don't think the longer one's necessary. There's 2 sides to this. This would be normally where you'd girth hitch it into your harness. We're not going to do that today. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the smallest loop. Notice how there's a long loop and a small loop. We're going to take the small loop, tie it into our carabiner. Remember, make sure our carabiner is up against the tree, is the narrow side. That's the strongest point of the carabiner. Our weakest point is out here, but it's in the D, and that's what we want to do. What we can now do, because we've got an adjustable sling, is we can move up to our belay device. Now we have a couple different kinds of belay devices. We're going to talk about that today in other videos. This is the Eddy. This is my preferred device just because it's a little safer than the others. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then we come up here. What we're trying to mimic is the natural position of the device as if we were tied directly into it on our normal carabiner. Okay? What we don't want to have happen is for the belay device to come down to the side of you, so that when you pull up on the device to brake, you're actually braking at a 90-degree angle. We need that extra, the extra angle of pulling back. So we want the device up in front of us, so that when I pull to brake, I'm braking back this direction here. So I'm not braking out. The way the device works is it's a friction device, so it has to have friction to work. Now these devices automatically will lock. This is an auto-locking belay device versus some of the others. You have to watch out for wording. Some of them are brake assist devices, like the Grigori. Great device. This one's just a little safer because it auto-locks. As soon as it's pulled, it locks in place. So what we're going to do, we're going to put an auto-locking carabiner. I'm a big fan of the Rock Exotica Pirates. The reason is because if you look real close, it has a extra hook here to keep the carabiner from spinning, and it also has a lock symbol. So not only can I check it physically, but I can check it visually to make sure it's locked. So I can see that. Then it's not going to spin on me and get me into that bad position of pulling across the gate. So it's always going to be in that perfect position. Now, like we talked about, the tree is the primary carrying device. Basically what we have is we have the physics saying that we should not be belaying anybody that is less than half, or that is more than half our weight. Because as the person falls, they increase the fall, sometimes by up to 2. So what we want to see is nobody that is, if you're 200 pounds, you should be belaying nobody more than 100 pounds. Well, that's pretty hard to do, especially with some of our smaller people. So what we've done is we've tied into the tree. The tree is now taking the fall, as if when I tighten up, if the person falls, they're going to catch on the system and the tree is going to catch them in this system. Now, as I talked about before, I'm a big fan of a belt and suspenders. You're going to get tired of that after we're done with all these videos. I also tie into the system, and you'll see here, I've tied in with an auto-locking carabiner that I check, and into my belay loop here. This gives me that if the system breaks, the knot comes untied, the carabiner fails, or any of the loops in here fail, I have a secondary backup system that I am the backup to the system. So again, I catch here. Now we don't want to leave a lot of slack in that system. So keep that in mind when you're doing it. We don't want to have 12 inches of catch, because as the person falls, it's going to jerk you. Now, are you going to be jerked in this situation? Only if the system fails. Now, I've seen other tie-ins where people tie through the harness. Basically what I mean is they're tying the back of their harness here, which is not a rated tie-in point on most harnesses, to the tree, and then tying to the front. That is not preferable, because now you're depending on your harness to do a double load. It's only rated for you. Now you're carrying 2 people. It's not rated for that. So what we're going to try to do here is to make it so you are the backup. You're the secondary to the system. Okay? That allows you to be able to adjust for different height people. I can sit here and pop it, put you in a different loop down here for a shorter person, or a taller person I can raise up even higher. But this allows you to have that pivoting system in the front here. So when they fall, you're not thrown into the tree. The tightest you can get is right here. So it keeps the device out in front of you. You don't have the same problem that you normally do. Again, tied in as a secondary. Primary is the tree. We have a 3-wrap, 2-pull with a water knot. We have auto-locking carabiners all the way through, except for this guy right here. I like this as a screw gate because sometimes this gets dirty because it ends up in the dirt sometimes. I'd rather have it to a point of where I can tighten it down and check it versus an auto locker, because I'm only going to do this 1 time a day. Alright, well, that's how to tie into a tree and set up an anchor system for a belay.